Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And today we're jumping into this Lego set, Star Wars set 75454. There's the Imperial Remnant AT-AT with the INT-4. That's the little escape pod right here. And you see it comes with Grogu, Mandalorian, the Imperial Remnant. Let me bring this up closer. Imperial Remnant Warlord, the AT-AT driver, Imperial Remnant Storm Snowtrooper, Imperial Remnant Snowtrooper again, and the regular Snowtrooper. So let's get ready to jump into this. Let's just look at some of the stuff on the back and the details. So you could see here, I'm sorry about glare, you guys. And I hope you guys can hear me well because I have my AC on because it's very hot. So you can see here is just depicting the scene that it took place in the movie. You have this Imperial, the AT-AT right here. And you have here showing that the INT-4 loads up in there and it's able to fly outwards just like it did inside the movie. And here you have the cockpit area, which can hold up to two guys. And this just shows the Imperial INT inside there. So we're gonna rip this open really quick. This has that type where it opens up like clamshell. And then we're going to just take a look at what we got here. There we go. I've got a couple different, these are the paper bags now, which they've been advertising for a while. It looks like we have something about 11 bags. Yep. And we're just going to jump into the build. So I'll be back once we finish the entire construction and go over the set. I'm really looking forward to the set because I don't have an AT-AT in the collection. I always wanted one, so I'm glad they brought this out. And then I'll say my thoughts also later on in regards to comparing it to the 2020 AT-AT set from the original trilogy. All right, you guys, we are back with the finished build, and there were a total of 12 bags. So I want to get that out of the way, but then also a couple of things I want to just kind of quickly get out of the way early before jumping into the review. I had mentioned at the beginning of the video that I want to kind of compare this a little bit to the 2020 AT-AT. Now, I don't have that model, but there's a few things that, are noted that I think are important. And a lot of reviews have already pointed that out because I'm obviously a little bit, I won't say late to the table, but, not super early bird special when it came to the review. Some of the things that I think that a lot of people point out that are obvious, I don't think they put that much weight into them like should be put into it. So, first thing is first is that with the 2021, everybody knows that and we're going to get into when I give him further details of the deeper review, but that the cockpit area, this one holds 2 figures and the other one holds 3 figures. Now, there's a couple things to note with that. One, it holds obviously 3 figures, means it's wider, and it's wider throughout the entire body, not just the head area, the cockpit area, but it's also wider throughout the body, and by like 8 studs, well, this is 6 studs. And I think the significance when we talk about this being $160, the other one was said to have started at $160 as well. That was the last price I seen it available when it was still available. Some people said it went up to $170, but I think we look at places like Amazon, they settled at $160, at least before the time of retirement that I remember. So I wasn't really aware of it when it first came out in 2020, but I know it ended in 2023 and I would see it on Amazon at $160. So we're going to go with that price, $160. So with that being said, you look at this and you look at this, 3 years later of the time that one finished, not the time it was released, obviously 2020, you're looking at 6 years later. But if you look at it from the time that one ended and you're thinking to yourself, okay, it's the same price. So, this makes it a great deal by Lego standards. I think that this is considerably smaller when it comes to interior space. And I think that that's where, Lego is able to kind of play with that magic number in terms of the price because they know, okay, we did a little bit of tricks that made it look like it's not as small, by stretching that smaller size over a large scale model makes it look like you're not losing that much. It's like, okay, just one set of studs on one side, one set of studs on the other side. And in total, it makes it not look like that big of a deal. But in terms of actual interior space, square studdage, if you want to call it that. We're not gonna call it square footage because these are not measured in feet, but that's a lot of space. It's really a lot of space. And anyone knows when it comes to Lego interiors and you're a fan of Lego interiors, that's a lot of space. So I want to say that too, about the space. Two, the cockpit area is actually very low profile too. And I think the other one, they're able to sit in chairs, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. If I am wrong, correct me in the comments. I'm sure I'll be able to look at it after the time of making this video. But I believe they're sitting in chairs. But either way, I'm pretty sure I've always seen videos where they're sitting upright. This right here requires one of those kind of non-regular chair designs, not like these, because they need to somewhat be able to lean back a little bit for the characters to be able to sit inside here properly. Otherwise, this doesn't come down. If they're wearing a helmet or they got a hairpiece or whatever the case is, this doesn't fully come down flush like the way you see it. So the height inside here, it's definitely not. And the reason why I know that is because I tried to modify mine to put chairs in it and some brown chairs to match the interior because the interior is brown. I wasn't able to do it. The front pilot person can kind of sit down. No, I'm sorry. The front pilot person could kind of sit down, but not quite. They need to a little bit lean back more. And then the second one, I had it has to be elevated by one plate high because of the way the interior is. And it didn't work. And I had the Warlord inside the back seat with his hairpiece, and it wouldn't fall out. Then it wouldn't close down. Then I had to put in the original setup, and then they were able to, but I realized I had to kind of lean them back a little bit. So we'll get into that in a moment. So these are the things I just really wanted to point out right off the back. Those are the things that I find to be negative about the set. Overall, I think it's a great set. And I think that like in today's value, you're still getting good value, but I just know that compared to the 2020, you are sacrificing a good amount of detail. Now, you are getting a good amount of space. You are getting an increased level of detail in the model, which a lot of people are going to praise and say is good. And so for that reason, I do think it balances out, but you are making that trade of detail for size. I don't want that to be mistaken. And that size is definitely big. So let's get into this because I've already taken too much time with just random talking. We'll get into the minifigures after the fact, but I want to keep them in their position because I want to show, where they're at in the layout of things. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to also do a little bit of a mod to show you guys some things you could do if you wanted something a little more traditional in terms of the interior space, because that INT-4 takes up a lot of space. So here you can see the details of the legs and whatnot. And these, they can move and the joints there. This has more of just a kind of a loose movement for these, which is fine because it allows that when you put the foot down, it's going to almost always find its way. You have the joints up here. So that is actually really nice. And they feel pretty good. I've seen someone talk about how, because like I said, I don't have the 2020. I've seen how someone spoke about how it's more sturdy than the 2020 when it comes to that. And you have more positions you can move them in. So it's a lot more sturdy in that way. The build on the legs were actually pretty fun. I thought they were going to be tedious, but they actually weren't. They were actually pretty fun to build. You build all four at the same time. And so it goes very quick. This you can see, this is intended to be in this direction, but they pretty much spin. So there's nothing keeping them from moving. So that's that, you may, if it moves a lot on your thing, that might get annoying. I think one way around that is, either pulling that piece off so that way it doesn't show an orientation, or putting all four of them around it. And that way you also kind of really won't notice the spin as much. So there's that as an option. This right here spins as well. So these are little things that you might find annoying because if they move, you're going to find you're going to see that they move, you know what I mean? So that's the only thing about it. They weren't able to design them in a way where they don't move. So that is one thing to notice there. Let's jump into the cockpit area. Now this opens a little bit, this opens up wider here, and this opens up a little bit like that. Let's just kind of bring this up a little bit, you guys. And I'm sorry about the lighting over here. My lighting is not standing taller than what you see here. So let me try to fiddle with this a little bit. So you can see how that is there. And the thing about it is, once again, you guys, I'm sorry about my lighting right now. All right, I was able to prop my lighting up a little bit. So hopefully you guys can see this a little better. But essentially, let me just pull them out and then you'll definitely get a better sense of this. Okay, just trying to balance my lighting, you guys. Sorry about that. Let me zoom in so that way the camera will adjust a little better to it. So you can see how this is. You got 3 parts. You got this where the feet go, slide in there. That where he sits down, and this is like that little in-between spot. Then you have this right here, and this he sits there, and the front feet go here for that one. But because there's no seat backing, it allows them to lean back a little bit, and that's how you kind of ensure that someone can sit there. You can't put chairs, so that's the thing that sucks about that. I also wish that they would have gone with the sand. What do you call it again? Sand blue, is that what they call it? Sand blue. You know, the one I just showed you of the color of the chairs. I think I hear people call it sand blue. So if I'm incorrectly calling that for the rest of the video, don't mind. I'm just going to continue to call it that for now because I don't know. But that sand blue, I wish they would have made this that interior, because that's what we're used to with the colors of the other one. Not to say the full interior, but the seating, and it gives the color. This is mostly like a brown interior, which is fine, but you know, you may not be used to it. I actually bought for a mod, I actually bought 10 sand blue chairs for a possible mod. But at the time, I didn't realize how brown everything was inside here. So you might have to take a lot of that out if you want to have that kind of color, because you don't want to have too many colors and it get too rainbowy like inside the inside. But just letting you guys know, you can't really do anything about that when it comes to this interior. Now, one thing I will say, though, about this that is interesting is I do think there's room to expand this. This can be kind of with a couple of extra just regular 2x1 bricks, or even like, you know, like 1x4 bricks, whatever the case is. You can, because the way this is built out is coming sideways, you can actually extend this like a full brick this way, a full brick this way. It shouldn't be that hard. And if that's wider, you should be able to kind of play around with sitting more people in it. Now you'll have to find a way. The floor will be, the gaps will be covered if you have the bricks going all the way from the back all the way to the front. But where you're going to end up having the issue is you'll have to widen this top piece here to accommodate. So like, you know, extend this a little bit on the sides. You don't have to worry too much on these, because that movement to close in will help. So it may be down the line I'll do something like that, but you do have the ability, and this moves forward as well. That might be the only area where you might have a little bit issue with gaps on the side here if you widen this. But I do think there's a lot. It's not hard to make this a little bit wider, and then you can make the interior have a couple more seats, you know what I mean, in the wide direction. Maybe you could put two next to each other and 2 next to each other from the back row. So front 2x2 and then 2x2 right there. So who knows? But that is something. But as is, it's fine. The details on it look nice, but just know that it's a very small head. But like I said, when you look at it compared to the other one, the overall looks like they just shaved a little bit of size and a little bit like on the side, a little bit in length. It doesn't look that bad, a little bit in height. It doesn't look that bad. But when you sum up the total, not only is it that the 2020 has more space in general for the 3 figures, but you have the 3 figures. But even each of those figures has more space. And I think that is, you know, something to be note of. Like those 3 figures don't have to lay back. They can actually sit in regular chairs, if I'm not mistaken. So this right here doesn't really move. I'm sorry, it's not appearing on camera right here. I'm sorry. This right here doesn't really move. So you're not going to really be able to do anything with that. That's just an area where it's just, you know, Technic pieces. Now on the top here, you've got this little hatch. Let me move Mando out the way there real quick. And then you can kind of see inside there with the INT. I like these colors too, with the whole just, it makes it look like just different panels, maybe from wreckage, from whatever. So I'm really actually a fan of that. That looks kind of nice. And it's just a matter of getting used to this. Now, obviously, Mandalorian Grogu movie is not going to be as iconic, as the, I'm having a brain fart episode. I'm just going to episode 5. I'm forgetting what it is. Return. I forget what I'm not Revenge of the Sith. Well, I'm getting my names mixed up, and I'm sorry for having a brain fart. It's super late at night right now. But episode 5. So yeah, that iconic, the Hoth, AT-AT, your standard AT-AT, that scene is going to be iconic no matter what. But so I know that this movie won't be as iconic in the scene, especially because it's such a shorter scene. But in its own right, it looks really good. And like I said, it's not what we think of when we think of ATT, but if we could think of that as like ATTs just having different options, because this is a different variant, I think within its own right, it looks really nice. And it has some aspects about it that are really cool. Now, this is known as the Imperial Remnant AT&T, as I said in the beginning of the video, but I say that to say it's actually, not only is it a different type of ATT, it is supposed to be larger. So with that being said, it's a little funny that this one right here is smaller when it's actually supposed to be larger. I think that the original one is 72 to 75 feet. And this is supposed to be something like, I think like 90 feet maybe. But yet this version is smaller because, like I said, Lego is downsizing, and so it is smaller. So you could play it up in your mind as being however you want to be. You don't have to say, oh, it's specifically that. Use your imagination. You could say it's just a different variant and that's it. Opening up these parts here, and they come up so easily. And I really love that design, that they are able to come up so easily. And then you can kind of close them in like this if you want, but they come up really easily. Now, jumping into this here, this is our INT-4, and we're just going to move that out here. Now, one thing I think is interesting too is this area here. This area here, as you can see, it has that whole little layout there in the tan, not tan, it's almost like an orangey brown, because for you to put the little ship there. Where I have the two Imperial Remnant snowtroopers, because I know I'm going to get some of these names mixed up and butchered, because you got the regular snowtrooper as well. The Imperial Remnant snowtroopers, that is where they sit. Someone had mentioned that it was on the box. It's not on the box. It's actually on the web page, the pictures of the web page. So that's how you know these are supposed to be the seats, and those are supposed to be where the guns go. Like there's the those little 2-hole jumper plates that are like 1x3, and they got 2 of them. And that is, let me open this just to get some light come through here a little bit. And that's what's supposed to be there. And these are the 2 seats. I'll be honest, even though they give a place for them to sit, it does honestly feel like a little bit like lackluster, because you're trying to squeeze them in there with this in place. So it really kind of takes away from it looking like a setup where you'd have them sitting. I would say the good thing about this set, especially if it goes on sale, I get a lot of people want to get it early on because, if you're just in a rush and you want to get it, I mean, if you could wait, and wait for it to go on sale, all Lego sets go on sale at some point or another. But I could see this going on sale, probably not this Black Friday, but on another Prime Day, Black Friday, whatever the case is, where it goes from 160 down to maybe like 90 something, like maybe $98 or something like that, $100. This is the kind of set you'd want to get like 3 of these. The reason why is because you can easily gut it out. It wouldn't take much because it's pretty much already gutted out, but you could change up the interior, and we're going to do a mod on that at the end of the video just to give you an idea of what you could do. This can become a full transport type of setup, similar to the way it was with the original AT-AT 2021. And I think that's where this will shine, because some people will use this for the shuttle, and then some people will choose to gut it out and use it for transport. And I think that makes it really awesome. Now, also too, you can always take this, and I thought about this as well. You can end up putting something up here, like a nice, like kind of easy release brick. So that way you can just put that up there. And I think that's what I'm going to do with it, possibly. I know it doesn't look great, whatever the case is, but I'm going to probably end up doing that on mine. Just back up a little bit. And the reason why is because then I can gut this out as like almost a permanent kind of little setup and you know, have it where there's seats and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm going to show you guys that mod at the end of the video. Let's take a look at this right here. So this is the INT-4. You can see this, how it opens, and this can expand even further. I have the regular snow trooper inside there, Imperial snow trooper. And you can sit them down. Let me adjust this lighting. I'm sorry again, guys. So much shadow comes in with these Lego sets because sometimes light just doesn't penetrate through them. But you can see how the sitting is there, and they use that inside the cockpit area as well, like I showed you. So this is the second time they're using that type of thing for sitting. And you can sit them in like that regular, or you could do this. Obviously, the Warlord would be the one jumping in this, but I want the Warlord to be sitting up front for now. You could do that and have a gun in his hand if you want. And the set comes with plenty of guns, so you don't have to worry about that. And so yeah, it's a fun little ship. It's cool if you like it, the idea of like the ship inside there. Me personally, I think that the 2021 was for me, but at the same time too, not even from from a standpoint of you know, oh, I like the original trilogy better, nothing like that. Just on the standpoint of it being a cargo, having interior space, I just love that whether it's any kind of vehicle, ships, you know, tanks, anything of that sort. I love just having interior space where you could just have all these soldiers in it and stuff like that and troops. I think that's cool, which is the reason why I said I'm going to probably end up going that route. So obviously I could do that with this, but just baseline, that is the kind of setup that like I think I like more than having this take up so much space, because this is really just to escape with. It's not really like, you know, it's just not my vibe. Everyone's taste is different. So then going into the rear of it, you have space for the, and these expand out a little bit. You have space for the speeder bike. I was going to say snow speeder, but I don't know if this counts as a snow speeder per se, because I don't think they've ever had speeders like that in the snow areas. But as your speeder, you could see this here. You've got the handlebars, and this is supposed to be like your little pedals. But obviously if somebody's sitting here, they're not going to, you know, it's just to give that look. But the scale, a lot of people say that the scale though of this is very fitting of, you know, how it should be in universe relative to everything else. So with that being the case, you know, it, even though it's smaller than the one that came with the 2020, once again, yeah, I know the other one has less pieces, but I think a lot of these pieces are more for small detail and not necessarily, you know, the piece count sometimes doesn't really necessarily mean anything. It sometimes means tiny pieces. In this case, I think there's a good, yeah, like I was saying, that the scale looks really nice, but at the same time, it definitely know that it is smaller, which, like I said, I don't think is a bad thing, but it's still just adding up the fact that every little thing on this set is a little bit smaller than the other one. So let me also too just go over some of the extra pieces that we have here. And a lot of the blasters, we've got blasters for every character, including an additional smaller blasters. And I think what I'm going to end up doing, because I almost always do this when I have extra pieces, if I could put them on the vehicle or spaceship when it's a spaceship build as extra greebling, I do, just to kind of, you know, because normally some of these pieces, we don't do anything with them. So I sometimes do that. But let's jump into the minifigures now for what we get with the set. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to show first before we jump into that, and that is these blasters here, and the stud shooter blasters here, Gotta look from underneath for you to be able to hit this. And how do you get this thing to go? Do I even have them in there the right way? I'm not even too sure. Obviously, I probably installed them wrong, but you have your blasters here. I'm trying to get them to shoot, but I've never really shot these type before unless they're connected to like a kind of thing that has a launch mechanism. I can't get them to shoot, so maybe I installed them wrong. So I'm gonna have to check into that later, or how I put these things in. I heard a click, but who knows? Maybe I'm doing something wrong. But you do have those spring shooters, not stud launchers. I'm sorry if I was saying stud launchers, spring shooters. But let's get into the minifigures. So first off, let's jump into some of our blasters. Now I got one blaster still inside the back of the ship, but you can see really quickly right here, we've got plenty of blasters. You got 3 of the long ones. Yeah, that's a small one inside there. So 3 of the long ones, which are supposed to go to all of the troopers, the snow troopers, and the pilot, the AT-AT pilot, AT-AT driver, excuse me, has a small one. Mando has a small one, and the Warlord has a small one. And you could say Mando has one additional one because there's one additional small one. So yeah, so you get a lot of blasters. Obviously, everyone has a blaster. Now, this is the new form of Grogu. Now, I haven't had this new one yet, so this is my first one. So I'm glad I happened to get them because all the sets I bought, I did buy the speeder for Mando, but that didn't come with the new version of Grogu. So luckily, this one came with him. Obviously, Mando has the head, didn't come with the hair. That's one thing that I think is always a knock, that they don't really have that piece that often. And I actually just did a pick-a-brick order. I should have remembered to get a hair piece for him. I don't know if I have one laying around. This right here is the snow trooper. You can see their face there. My kids kind of got a hold of them, so if they mix the heads up, I'm sorry if these are not the heads that are supposed to be with it, but meaning like mixing the ones within the set. These are the ones that come with the set, but if they're rearranged differently, you see he's got the detail of that little kind of like, what do you call that? Like little dress thing? I don't know what you call it, or having a brain fart for what the proper name would be considered. It was the Imperial Remnant Snow Trooper, which looks really cool. And where's my other one of him? He is inside here. Is he inside? Where did I put him? Now I'm trying to find. Okay, he was right in front of me. So you can see him here. Obviously, they're the same thing, but just take off the head. You can see this one here. They don't have double face prints on any of these except for the Warlord. You can see here. Detailing on it is pretty much the same as the Snow Trooper. The only difference is just the mask, really. And here goes the ATA driver. And she's a female. Nice mask. Different colors from the original 2021. I think those ones are like a sand blue. And here goes your Imperial Warlord. Looks pretty cool. Everyone says, though, he's not in the movie long, and he really isn't. But nonetheless, I still think it's cool that he comes with it because it's nice having some kind of supervisor character, whereas the other one had, I forget the guy's name. Was it Krennic? I'm not sure, but because like I said, I didn't have the set, but you had some kind of supervisor. So I think that this comes with a nice set of figures. I think it's really cool in that regard. So yeah, that is pretty much the end of the basics of this review. And I'll just kind of settle it before I get into what I'm going to show you next, which is my little possible mods that you guys could do. I think it's a really good set. I think if you don't have any AT-AT Walker, I think that it's worth getting. I've already heard of people who are trying to do what's the word I'm looking for? Alternate builds to make this one like the traditional AT-AT. So if you were really in that demand, I won't even say skip it because you want the other one. Get it because those builds are coming where people are going to mod this to be like the other type. It's going to be the same size, but they're just going to mod some things about it so it appears to be that like the 2021, the original from the original trilogy one, it's gonna have that look. They're gonna do little things to probably change up the guns, change up the blasters. The facial lift is gonna be a little bit different. Certain aspects of the rest of the body is gonna be a little bit different, but for the most part, it's gonna be that same. I'm sure they're gonna probably do the interior as well, which is not that hard. So I honestly would tell you at $160 rather than trying to get the old one for like $250 because that's what I've seen it for. And I've seen it even for that or even more because sometimes it'll be $250 and then shipping if you're looking at a place like eBay. So just know you're spending about $100 more for that one and you're not getting $100 worth more of stuff. So definitely, if you're just in the market for an AT-AT, get this one. I would just tell you that, just get this one. And I really think that it's worth it. Where Lego sets are right now, I think it's a great, it made me decide I had to get it. Like I always wanted AT-AT. Like I said, the other one probably would have fit me more, but I do agree that some people say that the sturdiness, the build quality of this one is better. Yes, it's smaller, and that's something that I put a lot of weight and emphasis on. A lot of people, other people don't. But at the same time, it is very much, I could tell from the build that it is a nice sturdy build, a little bit more just, newer techniques, is 6 years newer. They're going to have newer things they put into it to make it function better and just operate better, operate smoother. And those are the things that are going to stand out about it, even though it is a little bit smaller. But I definitely think that it's the only AT-AT available right now. I definitely think it's worth it. And so I definitely say jump on it. So at that point right there, guys, if you guys don't want to see any more of the video, you guys are done with the review, that could be it right there. You guys just, like I said, tune into the channel, whatnot, whatever the case is. But now I'm just going to take some time to get into a little bit of alternate builds or not alternate builds, mods that you can do to this thing that I really think are like a pretty big plus. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do this baseline, like, and have that be my regular mod, but I do think that it's pretty cool. And yeah, we're going to jump into it. So first things first, I already tried, like I mentioned before, about putting chairs to the front. It doesn't work. You really can't put chairs to the front. I really wish you could, but you kind of really can't. Yeah, you kind of really can't, unless you were to mod to make this thing go a little taller. If you can get away with that somehow, then you can put chairs in it. If you could just get this a little taller, then you could do that with this here. But otherwise, you can't. But as far as this section here goes, so there's a couple of easy ways to mod this in which I think are pretty cool. Once again, sorry about the lighting because I can't really get my lighting in there that well, you guys, so I apologize for that. So if things seem like they could be a little better, just bear with me on that. So what we're going to do is this. You can take this whole thing out if you want to go that route. But there's a simpler way if you don't want to do that heavy mod. So one, you could take a piece like this, which is a 4x8, and it takes up that same spot. You could either get rid of all that orange-ish color, orange brown, and just put this in place of it. And that gives you just that smooth, gives you like a very sturdy surface without those pieces. And then you can attach things on it like seats and stuff like that a little bit easier. I'm going to do it a different way though, which then involves less modifying, less changing in terms of this area here. What I'm going to do is take these plates right here. Now, these just happen to be the colors I have on hand. I probably have some better ones in storage, but these are going to serve the parts I need. The only difference is they're not the best of colors and it's starting to make the inside look almost rainbow-like. And I don't want that, all these mixed colors, but nonetheless. But then again, the beige is not too bad because these brown colors that are already in it definitely give it that, you're already getting that vibe as it is. So it is what it is. Now I'm going to put this on this side too. I should have just spin the whole thing around, but it is what it is. Now, another thing too is getting these kind of things out after the fact is not easy once you, with the brick separators after the fact. But what you're doing here effectively is giving yourself a place to put chairs now. The front of the chairs will be on this part and the back will lean on that. What's not bad about that is even though it makes them easier to pull out, that could be a positive if you want to sit all your soldiers in there, you know, and then slide them in after the fact. You could do that. So what we're going to do is drop our chairs in really quickly. Now you can't really get away with putting it that close, so you have to put a little bit of space in between, which is fine. They can't be all right up on top of each other. But like I said, that's fine. You can fit 6 in here on the bottom, which is fine. Now you still have these spaces that you could use here for seats as well, those side ones. But you know, in my mind, once you do the setup that I'm working on, I wouldn't even bother with that. So you could do this, and then we'll take our other ones and let's see if we can get this on there without me having to spin this whole thing around. But if I got to spin the whole set around, then I guess I got to do that. And it looks like I'm gonna probably have to do that because I don't know why I'm pushing down in here and it's not working. So let's just spin this around real quick. So like I said, what's nice about this is if you so wanted to just pull the chairs out, you can still put your INT right in there and leave these 1x6 beams right there. And it's not even a big deal. This, I prefer facing this way for right now. So you can see right there, we got a total of 6 seats in there. Now, this is the thing. You don't have the walking room. Like I said, if you want to have that solid piece like this there instead, then you wouldn't have those little hole gaps that you see there. You know, because then it would just kind of visually look better, at least in those spots there. You can't do anything about these ones here. You know, you could put like 1x1 stud tile right there just to kind of clean it up a little bit if you wanted. And maybe if this was all like a unified color, like all solid gray or something like that, I think it would dress it up even better. But nonetheless, you know, I'm just showing you, giving you an idea of things. But if you do want, you know, have like gray plates and tiles, you could dress it up even better. But what we're going to do now is, this is the setup of if you're going to have the 2 rows here, so you could hold 6 soldiers, 6 troopers there. And then you have this spot here, which you can either put a soldier there or put one right there if you want, or you can use those things to hold the guns rather than the spot that was over there, like I showed you already, that has 4 spots to hold the guns. But you can also do this. And watch, I thought that this was really cool. Now, if you have, it works better if this is a 10x6. It works a little better if you've got a 12x6, but I just don't happen to have that on me. But if you have it on you, it works even better. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this right here as a beam right where those soldiers were sitting right there, those 2 spots that were seats. Now watch this. I just think this is just awesome right here. And I'm trying to do this all in one shot. And I'm going to probably have to take these off to get that in there, because these things stop it from going in, which is fine. Can't get it in one shot, that's fine. There we go. That's our structure beams. Once again, you guys, sorry about the lighting. I do wish that it was better. We're going to put this right here. Make sure everything's lining up correctly the way it's supposed to. There we go. Okay. Now there are things that could be done to kind of reinforce this a little bit better, but nonetheless, and it's kind of bowing forward a little bit, but that's because this part is leaning on that little circular piece that you saw there. So that's why I say if this was coming one stud more to the left and one stud more to the right, a little longer, it would bear its weight on that end of the brick, the back end, not the front end. But anyway, this gives you an idea of what we're looking at. Look at that right there. So now you're holding 12 figures. You're holding 12 figures in here. That quick, easy mod, which is not super hard, you're holding 12 figures in here for transport. And I think it looks relatively nice. It's not perfect, but it looks relatively nice. You know, like I said, this is just a quick rough mock that I just threw together. It could be cleaned up. I did order the extra chairs. I didn't order any extra pieces. So if a person wanted to order specific pieces or you had better pieces laying around to kind of really jazz it up, you could do that. But this is 12 seats in this thing. I think that's awesome. And there is no problem in terms of, we're going to use the oh no, I am sorry, you guys. I think I miscalculated the height on this one. So we're going to have to backtrack. I should be able to just take off one of these and it should bring us to the height that we need to be at. Let's see. And if not, because I took a look at this before, but I thought it was the correct height for this. Let's see how this fares. Okay, this part is like bowing a little bit like that, which kind of sucks. But that's because, like I said, the pressure that's being leaned on is on the front bricks and not the back ones. But obviously you have the right pieces, that wouldn't be a problem if this is a little bit longer. So let's see here. No, it doesn't work. I am sorry, you guys. If I take his helmet off, it works. There you go. So that means, and then these ones don't have to have their helmet off. So it works, but you got to take their helmets off, which obviously if you're inside the you know, in the vehicle, you probably, you know, would take your helmet off, but that does suck. I'm not going to lie. You know, you do now have to find a place to put helmets. You could probably squeeze some of them in between here or whatever the case is, or leave one of these open just to kind of throw helmets. But yeah, maybe even get one of those little containers, the ones that look like crates, and you could like throw them in there. But so it works. That sucks to me because I would have wanted to keep them in there, or you could just use the bottom row. You don't have to use this extra top row. So that's a thing too. Or you don't, a way to balance it out too, though, maybe, and I don't know how well this would work, but if you had what am I looking for? One plate high rather than a full brick height, you might be able to get away with both of them, you know, fitting in there with helmets, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, you guys, so at least that's something, but it gives you guys some ideas of what could be played around with, at the least, at the minimum. But if you just want to do a layout like that, that is a layout that could be done, like I said, as well. But if you do this layout here, what's good about it is if you decide you want to just remove the chairs, you can just remove them. You don't have to remove that extra tiles that I put in there. And then you could still throw this in there. Now, by doing this now, this is going to stick a little bit more, but not crazy. It should still go inside there without a problem, but it might stick a little more. Let's see. Yeah, that's a flat surface. So it just, now you just got to line more things up. There we go. So it works. You know, you don't have to take these pieces out for it to be, if you want to swap out chairs in there, if you don't. But the only thing about it though is that it is going to require, under this setup here, it is going to require, you know, you just lining up the studs a little bit better. But yeah, you can have moments where you say, we want to put seats in because it's being used for a different assignment. And then times where you don't want to. The only thing I would tell you is just maybe getting better colors here to jazz it up. And I would even go as far as, if you wanted that to be a mainstay, and if you had black ones of this, I would use that instead, just to give it a more streamlined color. Put black on these, maybe either the dark gray, light gray, or black on these as well. And in that way, it just makes it a little more, excuse me, a streamlined kind of color. And I would say that's about it. But anyway, you guys, what are your thoughts on this? I really like this. I'm not a fan of this setup here like this. Not that it takes away from it. It's just not my ideal. So like I said, I am going to probably do something to stick this on top right there and have that be its permanent position, and then maybe put some seats inside there, I'm thinking. But anyway, you guys, like, what are your thoughts? Share them down below. Are you guys up or gonna grab this? Or are you guys not? What are your thoughts? Anyway, as always, you guys, like, share, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video.